It's time for another basketball recruiting podcast here on TarHeelIllustrated.com. I am THI publisher Andrew Jones, and joining me, as he almost always does when we talk UNC recruiting, our very own Clint Jackson. And Clint, big news today. Dontrez Styles out of Kinston, North Carolina, has committed to Roy Williams and the Tar Heels. He's the first member of the class of 2021 to pop for Carolina. You have been on this from day one, and I think your vibe all along was Carolina was out front, and I think Carolina has been well in the lead for a while, even though he did tell us that he narrowed it down to Carolina and NC State, and I do think he seriously considered NC State. But in the end, Carolina, its history, the connections to Kinston and all those things, and, of course, it's his dream to play there, won out for the Tar Heels.
Well, like you said, it's his dream to play there. And I think that NC State, Kevin Keats and those guys did a really good job getting in early with the Kinston forward. And I think that once UNC offered, it was kind of just like a number of days until it was all over. I mean, sometimes kids just have a passion and a love for a certain school. And as you see with the commitment today, it didn't take long for Carolina to overcome NC State in this battle.
Now, the connection to Kinston is something that early on seemed like it was a real thing, but he's kind of downplayed a little bit lately. I don't really know why. Maybe he just kind of wants to be his own guy. But early on, the Reggie Bullock connection, the Jerry Stackhouse connection, from your vantage point, how much did that help him maybe get to the point where Carolina was his dream school because he had that lineage in his town? And you know how strong that is in Kinston, North Carolina.
It is. It's really strong down there, and you see guys like Jerry Stackhouse, who's the best player in my opinion ever to come out of Kinston. Reggie Bullock, Brandon Ingram, all those guys, and I think that down there's just the culture. I've been to Kinston. I've seen basketball games in Kinston. That's a really tight knit community. And Carolina, you look in the stands, the Carolina gear is on 2/3 of the fans who are wearing college gear out there, if not more.
Okay, now as far as how he got to eventually committing to Carolina, in the end, this is a basketball decision. There are other elements too, the family stuff, the Roy Williams factor, the academics, the location, and all that kind of stuff. But from a basketball perspective, what was it that motivated him to go ahead and pop for Carolina, where how he saw himself as a fit in this program?
Well, great answer. Great question. So it's about fit. And I think that Carolina, what they did over the past couple of months is they really made him feel like he was wanted and not just like, hey, we're recruiting you because you're the number 1 or number 2 rated player in the state, depending on who you talk to. But I think they made him feel valued, and they said, hey, this is where we want. We believe in you. When I was talking to him a few weeks ago, he was saying things like that, like, we believe in you, we want you. And I think that the call that they had this week just really won him over.
I went back and looked at the last 3 articles that we've done on him. And each of those articles, he was quoted as saying basically that they believe in me. And I think that from what I gather, and tell me if you think I'm a little wrong or if I'm right on here, I think he's a kid that wants to be pushed. He wants someone, because if you believe in someone, you're going to push them to reach what you think is their expected level. And Roy is really good at finding the right buttons and then pushing them and driving kids to reach that point. I think that's what he was looking for here. I think he was looking for a scenario where he could go into, have all the bells and whistles that come along with playing in the ACC and certainly out of Carolina, but also in a situation where a head coach is going to push him and push him and push him, is going to stay married to that point in his game where he thinks he's capable of reaching.
I absolutely agree with you. I mean, he's a kid when you watch him play, and I've probably seen Dontrez Styles 5 or 6 times. I actually watched him play as a freshman in a tournament, and I really liked him and, knew he was going to be really good. Didn't know he was going to be Carolina level, but knew that we would have to watch him. But he's always played with passion. He's always had a high motor, and he's always just really played hard. And I think when you have a kid like that, they're wired to want to be pushed. And I think what you said is beautiful and articulate, and I think that that's what resonated with him. I think Roy Williams, as you said, found his hot buttons and pushed him. And now we're seeing that he's committing pretty early in his recruitment.
What are a few skill points that when Carolina fans who maybe haven't seen him before but will watch some clips in our our commitment piece, we've got 3 videos underneath where you can see a variety of things that he can do. What 2 or 3 things are going to jump out at Carolina fans and you say, wow, this dude can play?
I think slashing and athletic ability, kind of put those in one category. You know, he tends to like to go to the basket hard, plays really hard. Number 2, he's a great rebounder for a guy of his size, 6'6 and a half, 6'7", you know, probably about 207 pounds. He does a really good job on the boards. He is the biggest player on Kinston Vikings team, so a lot of times he's got to be the primary rebounder. And I think he's accepted that role. And I think when he gets to college, he'll continue to be really good on the glass. So athleticism, rebounding, and versatility. I think he's a guy you can use in different spots on the floor. You can play him at the 3 in a big lineup with 2 bigs. You can play him at the 4 and kind of go fast. He's tough enough on the inside where he can guard a bigger player too. He's got really long arms and he's strong.
Personally, I'm not a big fan of comparing guys because everyone's got their own game, but fans love it, especially in recruiting. So is there anybody in Carolina history or maybe ACC history in the last, let's just go back 10 years or so, that he kind of reminds you of a little bit?
Well, I'll tell you, I don't like doing that a lot because when you paint a picture for a fan, if they don't look exactly like that, they tend to get down on, you know, like
I understand
comparisons. Athletically, he's not as bouncy as JP Tokoto was, but he's in that stratosphere. Like he's more athletic than say Reggie Bullock. You know, he's I'm trying to think of somebody who's a dead ringer for him. He's just really tough and athletic and versatile, and he can play either forward position. Just based on this sort of stuff, you tend to do better. I'm going to throw this one back at you. You tend to do better at saying, well, is it kind of like this? And then I'm like, yeah, actually kind of like that. I've seen some player comparisons comparing him to P.J. Tucker, who was from North Carolina and I think played at Texas and now is in the NBA. He's not quite as physical as P.J. Tucker, but he is a really good rebounder and versatile and tough on the inside and athletic like a P.J. Tucker, but not a dead ringer.
I actually think the range comparisons like you just gave are better, and I prefer those as well. And you rarely ever say, oh, he's a lot like this guy. You always give the range because every player is different. They're all like fingerprints. Every player is unique. Okay, what's a couple of things about his game that he definitely is going to have to work on before he arrives in Chapel Hill in about 14 months?
I think anytime you have a guy who's coming in who's on the wing at UNC, from my experience, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I tend to see wing forwards that their games are predicated on skill and shooting tend to translate quicker to Roy Williams' team than, say, games that are more about athleticism and slashing. For instance, Nasir Little, JP Tokoto took a little while, whereas like a Justin Jackson, Cam Johnson tended to get there a little quicker. I would say because of that, learning the system, rebounding will really help him stay on the floor at Carolina, and I think he does that well. But just getting comfortable with the system because he's not a great shooter. He's okay from mid-range, and he's a bit streaky, but he's not one of those guys where, you know, he catches the ball on the perimeter and he puts it up and it looks like it's going in like a Justin Jackson. So I think shooting and learning the system and getting comfortable in his own skin out there will probably be the 2 or 3 things that we need to see him work on to get on the floor and stay on the floor.
I think one of the things that I'm going to look for when I see him when he wears a Carolina uniform for the first few times is that motor. Because I think with all coaches, they want kids with a motor, but Roy Williams despises the idea of having to coach effort. And if you have a motor in Chapel Hill and you arrive with a motor, that's also part of a skill set. And if he has that, then he's already got part of the deal done right there.
I agree. And, you know, and my fault for not mentioning his motor. His motor is actually one of my favorite things about him. He always plays hard. He goes hard. He's aggressive in the post. He's slashing. He plays defense, you know, and a lot of times you and I have talked about it ad nauseum, but most of these kids nowadays, they kind of mail it in on defense. And he's a guy who actually embraces, you know, the defensive side of the ball. So those are some things that I really think that will keep him on the floor. The motor, the defense, the rebounding, as he gets comfortable and acclimated to Chapel Hill.
I think most motor guys do play defense because I think that's where their mojo originates.
I absolutely agree. And, never seen him take a play off, never seen him coast. He always runs the floor. He's always attacking, goes after every rebound. And, that's just, I think sometimes when you're the best player on the team and you've been depended on to do that, that just translates really well. When you have a guy who plays on an Oak Hill or a Montverde or an IMG Academy and they're surrounded with talent, sometimes they may get a little spoiled because they're like, well, I don't really have to rebound because we've got 2 6'10" guys. Well, Dontrez Styles doesn't have that, so he's got to be the primary rebounder, and he's wired to do that. And when you're wired to do something, you feel like it's your job and you own it.
Roy Williams has 1 in the books for the class of 21. There may be more for the class of 20. We've already hit on that a little bit a few days ago with the podcast. Check it out. If you're watching our YouTube channel, just scroll down. It won't take long. You can find that video and all the other stuff we do here at TarHeelIllustrated.com. Clint Jackson, thanks for joining me. And this is THI publisher Andrew Jones. You are watching us on TarHeelIllustrated.com and Tar Heel Illustrated, the YouTube channel. Click like, subscribe, hit the notifications bell so you can check out all of our content. Thanks, my friend.
Thanks for watching, guys.
All right. Thanks for stopping by, everybody.